As always, I want to thank you all for coming to Trump Tuesdays on a beautiful Tuesday in April. Sorry. You're good. On a beautiful Tuesday in April. And of course, there are people who think about this week and realize it's the week that we all pay our taxes and submit our paperwork to the United States government to provide the services that our government gives us and to protect the common welfare. We thought it most appropriate today that we talk about the long-standing practice of presidents and presidential candidates to release their taxes so that we as Americans can see what they're paying and what they're taking deductions for in their assets. And then that transparency helps give us a renewed sense of trust in our government. We are joined today, we're happy to be joined today by Professor Schoedeshak. Tried to do that.
Close enough.
Who is a professor at Le Moyne in both the Madden School, which is the School of Business at Le Moyne, and the Arts and Sciences School, to talk to us in more detail about the implications of President Trump's lack of making his taxes public and what that means and why we should all be concerned about that. So without further ado, Professor Schoedeshak.
Thank you, Mayor. I published last Sunday an op-ed piece with concerns about how the Republicans might change the tax code. Is that better?
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Yes, what reform of the tax code might mean given other things that have happened. Because I'm a shameless self-promoter, I have brought along copies of that, and if anyone would like a copy afterwards, I'll be happy to supply it. If I run out, I can make some more. What the article looked at principally was Trump leaning into the microphone during the first debate and saying, when he was challenged that he hadn't paid any federal taxes, he said, that makes me smart. And it makes me smart too, in the sense of it hurts. It means that his wealth is not going to support any of the things that he has claimed he is going to do, and in particular, increasing the budget of the military. That's going to happen only if the rest of us chumps who are not smart enough to evade taxes pay for it. So then the Vice President Pence, in his debate, asked the rhetorical question of Tim Kaine, don't you take advantage of all the deductions that you're entitled to? And it sounds like, well, you do, Trump do, same. Okay, so there's no difference there. But that's just not true. The tax code runs over 20,000 pages. It is a malignancy, as I call it in the article. And it's not as if all the provisions or all the deductions are the same. In some instances, for example, the home mortgage interest deduction, widely taken advantage of and advances an important social goal. But buried in those 20,000 pages are lots of provisions that benefit only the ultra-wealthy. And so to say it's the same with those who take a widely used, grounded in social justice deduction, that's the same as those in the ultra-wealthy who have successfully lobbied for obscure provisions that benefit only themselves. That's ludicrous on its face. Now, I suggested that we follow the model of biologists, the Latin cui bono, who benefits. When we look at tax reform, we've got to ask, okay, who would benefit from this? And boy, that raises lots of issues. There are those who have said that Trump has no ideological core. And I think that's kind of right, but actually exactly wrong. And let me explain. I believe that Trump is a narcissist. I believe that he has an insatiable appetite for adulation and praise. And in consequence, what should be a core is actually a black hole. That is to say, it is impossible to give the man as much adulation as he craves. So as regards tax reform, don't look at Trump. Here the expression, there's nothing to see here, seems to me to be exactly right. There is no core there, and so we have to look to folk like Paul Ryan, who's going to be doing the tax writing. Well, a couple of things. Ryan has said we need to simplify the tax code. That's good. But then he has said, so we need to reduce the number of brackets from 5 to 3, which is totally irrelevant. That's not the part of the code that's problematical. It's them 20,000 pages of special interest provisions, including, of course, corporate welfare. So it's nonsense to say that by reducing the number of brackets we're going to do anything constructive at all. Second, Ryan has claimed we need to reduce the corporate tax rate in order to be competitive in the world. Nonsense. Why? Because we have to distinguish between the corporate tax rate as a statute and the effective tax rate, that is, that what companies pay. Prime example here, General Electric. A huge, very profitable company pays virtually nothing in federal taxes. Why not? Because they have a massive tax department that works out various sorts of depreciations and credits and so forth, so that they don't pay taxes. Their effective tax rate is very nearly zero. So reducing the statutory tax rate would do absolutely nothing. Except for this, maybe they could hire fewer lawyers and CPAs that work at this, so those folks would be unemployed, but that's it. It would not make General Electric more competitive. They're plenty competitive, and there is nothing in what they pay in taxes that makes them less competitive. So, as we look to potential income tax reform, ask that question, cui bono, who benefits? And of course, one of the things we really want to know is, will Trump benefit, and if so, in what ways? And there is one thing, principally, that prevents our knowing the answer to that question, and that is the fact that he hasn't released his tax returns. So if we cannot tell how this would affect his own taxes, why should we agree to tax reform? It could be simply a matter of yet further enriching the man. Now, more broadly, and I see that there are no children in the audience. That's really good. Because many have said that Trump is a liar, and I think he does on a fairly regular basis lie. But here I want to rely on a fellow philosopher, Harry Frankfurt, who wrote an absolutely wonderful book called On Bullshit. And the difference is this: the liar knows the truth, but tries to hide it, cover it up, divert you with rhetoric. The bullshitter just has no regard for the truth, looking to sway your judgment with his rhetoric, with the truth being totally elsewhere. We have seen this repeatedly on the stump. Trump talked about how Obama golfed more than a professional golfer in the PGA, which wasn't true. Okay? Is that a lie? I don't know. I don't know if he knows how many days a PGA member spends on, but it was bullshit, right? It was just, he doesn't care, and it was a good applause line. And needless to say, since taking the oath of office, he has golfed already more than Obama did in his first year, right? Now, sometimes the way he does this bullshitting is to take credit for stuff that he hasn't actually done. And the comparison here is with the rooster, who thinks that his crowing makes the sun rise. And you go, oh man, okay, he didn't really do that, did he? Yeah, he did it. The most dangerous, though, to my mind, is baseless accusations and criticisms that once they are shown to be baseless, he takes credit for fixing. And the prime example is claiming that NATO is obsolete. Now, that freaked out an awful lot of our NATO allies who have stood by us, who have sent people to Afghanistan and such like. What's he saying? NATO is obsolete. Well, because they aren't focused on terrorism. That's false. I don't know if it was a lie or bullshit, but it's one of the two. It's absolutely false. NATO has been. And now within the past few days, he said, I said NATO was obsolete, and it no longer is obsolete. And what we're supposed to infer from that is Trump fixed it, right? That it was obsolete, and now, because of his good efforts, it's no longer obsolete. Unbelievable. And of course, he cited absolutely false crime statistics, right? And now that's a wonderful setup for claiming, hey, I solved the crime problem in America. No. No, you start out with a false criticism, then you do some stuff, then you make a big show that you're the one who fixed it. So, back to income tax reform. Watch out. I suspect it's never going to happen because it's going to get blocked unless he releases his tax returns. In which case, either under the emollients clause or straight up bribery or conflict of interest, he'll be impeached, or more likely 25th Amendment will be used to get him out of office. I don't think he can withstand that. Keep watching. Who benefits? Don't let up. He's got to show us those, or we ought not support any sort of income tax reform whatsoever.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here today on this. It's just me that gets the feedback, Joe. Thank you all very much for being here today. And you heard the professor ask the salient question, who benefits? We will be back here next week, also on Trump Tuesdays. And I want to thank you all for being here again today, and go out and enjoy the sunshine. Thank you.